Hello and welcome to the One People Show. Hello and welcome everyone to a Mercury retrograde One People Roundtable Show. Yeah, that Mercury in retrograde shit. But apparently there's like 5 or 6 planets in retrograde, isn't there, right now? So it's not just us. We are hearing from all kinds of people about their technical issues. And Mercury is transiting the sun. Is the Mercury still transiting the sun? Does anyone know? Because I know it's I think maybe already just been finished. Mercury transited across the sun last night. I have no idea how any of this plays into flat Earth virtual reality scenarios at all. We had that discussion this morning too. But I swear every time I've had a computer blow up or whatever, including now, like last week, Mercury has been retrograde. There is absolutely something to this. So whatever that thing is that we call Mercury is absolutely sending out a frequency. Whatever that fucking thing they call retrograde is. Messes with technology. I just don't know. I just don't know. But you can't call it coincidence with everything. Every piece of technology around us, like Lisa's computer, dead. This computer, which is a relatively new computer, has been having like seizures all week. Nick has a relatively new tablet. He was threatening to use it as a frisbee yesterday. Lisa's phone doesn't work. Nick's phone doesn't work. I'm hearing from people all over the place who are like, my computer is nothing more than a freaking paperweight. I'm going to throw it out a window. Everyone this week, like technology. Transport and communications in general. Transport and communications, yeah. Now, I don't know whether this is a Mandela Effect, if it's NASA and the scientists trying to backtrack and, I don't know, cover for the fact that things are changing. But I know when I was a kid and Halley's Comet came through, I was told it was a once-in-a-lifetime deal. Every 76 years. 75, 76 years, yeah. That Halley's Comet would come through. Now, that was in the 80s. 86. Apparently it's back. Or at least the tail of it's back. Or the debris field. The debris field from Halley's Comet. Apparently, once a year. Now it happens annually. Once a year we go through the debris field of Halley's Comet. Visible from Earth. Once a year. I'm like, I don't fucking think so. I'm sorry. I don't know what kind of, and the whole thing is like, now they've given it a name of a something like, there's the Leonids and the Geminids, which are the meteor showers. They've now given this another name. And they're saying, it's the debris field from Halley's Comet last passed through the solar system. And it happens every year. I'm like, no, it hasn't. Never heard of it before. And of course, none of it will hit the space station. And we can always wish. So we have this one. Then we have this article. So yesterday, on the 9th, or I guess it's still the 9th in North America and Europe, technically, starting at around 11 a.m. UTC for 10 or 11 hours, Mercury would be transiting in front of the sun, between the sun and the earth. And if you had the special filters and the special screens, you would actually be able to see Mercury cross over in front of the sun, little black dot. So there's an article in RT about Mercury, and I posted it out last night. I was actually really disappointed with the responses back. Apparently we don't have any astronomers on my page. Because I was like, does anyone else want to spot the fuck-uppery in this article? Like, for example, now Mercury is the smallest planet in the solar system. Smaller than Pluto. Wait,
why would they try to reclassify Pluto as a planetoid? Because it wasn't big enough to be a planet. Yet Mercury is a planet, and it's smaller than Pluto, but it's not a satellite of the sun. Wait. And the same type of thing where they say, just like the Halley's Comet thing, where it's like, that makes this pass every 16 years, I think it is, this pass in front of the sun. And the next one will be visible in 2019. Wait, if it makes this pass in front of the sun every 13 or 16 years, whichever it was, and it's 2016, why is the next event of Mercury passing in front of the sun in 2019? Did you just contradict yourselves, NASA? I don't understand. It's all a big clusterfuck.
So honestly, it doesn't, I don't know whether they're just trying to make it all up now to try and explain what we're seeing now.
Yeah.
And they're just changing their stories, or whether this is genuine Mandela Effect.
Yeah, how do you tell? I mean, this is it.
I don't know.
Do they expect, because the people are too stupid, they think the public are going to be so stupid that they're not going to catch on to the fact that Halley's Comet only comes by once every 76 fucking years? And no, there's never been a debris field that we've passed through before for Halley's Comet, ever. Or, yeah, exactly, Sheila. Or are they covering up for something? Considering they said that between the, there was a 5-day window with this debris field of Halley's Comet last week, that you would be able to see 30 to 40 meteors, fireballs through the sky an hour every night.
You're not going to use a lot of.
Okay. Yeah, 30 to 40 an hour in the southern hemisphere. Maybe not so much in the northern hemisphere, they said, that you'd be able to view. Really? Does anyone else remember this? Has anyone else heard about this freaking, like, what? And I do kind of sort of keep track of this shit. Kind of sort of.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but lately it's felt like every day is a different version of reality. Whether you want to call it a different timeline or a different artificial construct or whatever. But it's like some days it's like everything's in the flow, everything feels good, positive, natural, organic. There's this, your connections with people are good. Then the next day it's like, no, you've just walked into the wrong game. And everything feels wrong. And then it can feel right again the next day. And yet over the last...
Or it can feel even more wrong the next day.
Yeah. The last, say, 3 days, the days have broken up into hours, sections of... Okay, yeah, no, this is cool. This is my reality. This is all right. Everything's fine right now. And then, oh, no, I just slipped into something else.
Where the hell did that
And then I'm back
come
again. It's bizarre. And there's been 2 articles, and Katie, I want to thank you for that one that you sent through. There's some really interesting stuff in there.
I haven't finished reading it yet, but there's some very interesting stuff in there.
One was from Valiant. I don't know if any of you guys have ever read stuff put out by Valiant. He's an artist as well, and there's a lot of his artwork online. And he doesn't post things very often, but this last one got put up on
Rumor Mill
News
on Saturday, around there.
And there was some pretty interesting stuff in there around timelines that you can see fits into a lot of the conversations we've all had around timelines and constructs and have you. And then, Katie, if you are in a situation, because we can't touch this computer and do anything.
we can't even load a website right now. I went in to try and load Removing the Shackles because I have all the links of the latest news that have been so fucking insane, all saved in a blog post that I haven't published yet. I was going to pull it up as a reference. Yeah, we couldn't even get that.
No. So, Katie, if you've got access to those articles that you shared with me, could you please post them in the chat room here now?
The
or
links.
when you can. If you're there. I haven't even checked that you're there. I think you are there.
I think I saw Katie. I'm not sure. Now that I say that, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, there she is.
Thank
you. again, more timeline stuff. And this one sort of was going on the theory that, paraphrasing heavily, that there is an organic timeline and all the others, everything else is a made up, manipulated, created timeline construct. And that they are being removed and have been for a while. That there are those from the original timeline who have kind of, what was the word they used?
Transited here, not come back here. No, there was a different.
There was a weird word that they used. That they've come into this one, helping to close this one out. And there's a lot in there about our DNA and what it really is. There's a lot in there about
quantum communication, which was actually really, really interesting. Some pieces of the quantum communication stuff, very, very interesting.
But they can't. The two articles, the one from Valiant and this other one,
same thing, came out within. Well, they came to our attention within a day of each other. Interesting, you know.
And there was correlations between them.
Yeah, you just take your pieces.
What's bullshit, JD? The idea that there's an organic timeline, or the other ones are constructs, or what?
The other article that came out, which was really interesting because it popped. I was in the middle of trying to read the one that Katie had posted. I was halfway through that, and it talks about DNA and quantum communication. And I jumped back over to my Facebook to go check something, and someone had posted on my wall, came through my wall. And it was hysterical. Basically, you know, the old wives' tale of a watch pot never boils is actually true. In quantum theory, they were looking at it, and basically, atoms do not move if you're watching them. They've proven it scientifically that atoms do not move if you're watching them. So technically, guess what? A watch pot doesn't boil. It actually doesn't. So, and then the whole thing of the crossover with the DNA and quantum communication that was talking about between the timelines, basically saying that DNA communicates on a level of quantum communication that timelines, physicality of timelines has no separation from. It crosses through any and all because it works on the quantum level as light, as photons, etc. And it was an interesting article. It was really, really quite interesting.
Just to answer, JD, whoever wrote it, no, I'm not aware of any connection between Wingmakers and Valiant, for one.
No.
And what September stuff are you talking about? Maybe just be having a brain fart.
But the chat room's going so fast, I can't, hold on. Let me just, if we pull this down a bit, we'll at least be able to maybe catch up a bit better.
About the September prophecy. What
September prophecy? I don't know what that is.
Was that in the Valiant stuff, or?
There wasn't anything in the Valiant stuff. Yeah, I agree. JD just basically said about people when dates are mentioned, like September or July, that it's just an energy harvesting tool. I completely agree. Every time someone mentions dates, I go, "Don't mention dates, please." Yeah, Valiant is something.
Yes,
he's been around. He's an artist more than I knew him for his artwork more than anything else. He does some beautiful beautiful paintings. But yeah, every so often he'll post something. Like I say, it's very, very rare that he actually does post something. So, and I find his stuff to be kind of interesting. You said something happened. He actually gave a date. I don't remember. I don't remember him giving a date. I just remember the whole.
We could be brain farting, but it's entirely possible.
What else was I? Maybe that was another timeline. I don't know.
Just reading something, then triggered something else.
DNA quantum communication.
No.
Well,
What was it? Shit.
huh.
No, it was about the
She's-
date.
Okay, well, I'll talk about some of the other fuck-uppery. Do you want to talk about some of the other fuck-uppery? I have tried to put Transpicuous News together for about 5 days now, and it just everything has just been so crazy. 3 of the things.
There was something that's been going on in the world that's just, it was right there, and now it's gone. I hate that one.
Should I?
No, go on, carry on. Forget about me. I'm just going to sit here and try and think about it.
Okay, just sit there and smoke your cigarette. So we had all the new things. So there was the Google contact lens. Now there's another one. Sony's just put together their patent for a lens, contact lens that you wear. That, interestingly enough, all these new wearable technologies, injectable or swallowable. Yeah, that's it. The other new one, swallowable technology.
Sorry, the Obama thing.
Which Obama thing?
The thing that he's just signed.
The bill, the executive order.
That's the one.
The executive order. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll just put that down, the Obama executive order. We'll get to that in a minute because that one's fucking interesting too. Although you guys in the Unfuckers room, you'll have all seen me ranting about that. Swallowable technology that's supposed to help to remind you when to take your medication. You swallow this technology and it sends a Wi-Fi signal to your phone. It's just kind of like the other, like the one.
Because that's what you need, Wi-Fi coming.
Wi-Fi coming out of your guts. It's like the other one. The one it was something to do with, it was like an insertable one, like a tampon, to tell you when your period is coming. Because, women really need help and they need a Wi-Fi message on their phone telling them, hey, your period's coming. We would never survive without that. But what's interesting is how these things are powered, because they're all hooking into the body's energy field to power them. They don't talk about it that way, but basically they're all using combinations of, like the Sony one is dealing with magnetic fields and electrical magnetic fields for within the body, recharging the power cell in these contact lenses. Oh, the contact lenses that you activate by blinking and can record and also send the signals out of everything you see with Wi-Fi, because you want someone to be able to hack into your eyeball and see everything that you're seeing, right? Just by accident. So seriously, we also have the new, this one so goes beyond the realms of anything that I can possibly say is my reality. They've passed a law in the States that will allow a company to take 20 brain dead people, certifiably brain dead, and I don't mean idiocracy brain dead, I mean actually brain dead, inject stem cells into their brains and electricity to bring their brains back to life. I shit you not. They're taking brain dead people on life support, going to inject them full of chemicals into their brains and play with electrical fields and stem cells, and they're going to try to basically hard jump their brains to turn them back on again, and then see what happens. Because that's not how zombie movies start at all. That's not how zombie movies start. No one has ever seen Resident Evil, apparently. It's, again, Idiocracy and Resident Evil have become a documentary. This, all week, the pieces that have come out on this level, the pieces of technology that are being announced, the scientific studies that are being announced. Oh, Gardasil vaccine, we have just proven that they're getting ready to add Gardasil to the infant vaccination table. It's proven. I went by on my Facebook last night. I tried to grab it and I was having internet issues. They're proven that they're about to put the Gardasil and add it to the infant vaccine schedule. Because, 2-week-old babies, they need to be protected from sexually transmitted diseases. It's true.
Why don't we just get rid of the pedophiles and then they don't need protection?
Don't even go there.
See, these are these days when I said you wake up and it's like, not my world.
This is not my world. This can't possibly be my world. I don't understand.
Is not where I belong. And then you come across some really cool stories. Like that horrific fire that's going on in Fort McMurray.
Yep.
Which apparently Russia is the only country who offered to assist.
And the Canadian government is ignoring Russia. They refuse to respond. Russia has offered to send their water tankers. Now you have to understand, Russia has the world's biggest, best water bombers on the planet. They are almost twice the size of any water bomber by Canada, America, Australia, any of the Western nations. These things hold way more water, can fly way farther.
So all those countries that Canada has helped out over the years apparently haven't bothered to put their hand up.
Not even the States. Not even the States has offered to send help to Canada.
But the people on the side of the road,
yep,
the people who are evacuating this town, the people who have got
truckers,
they're all helping each other,
yeah,
with fuel, with food, with water, you know, helping each other get through this.
Truckers loading up their trucks with fuel and water and diapers and anything people could possibly need, and are driving up and down the roads where people are trying to escape from the wildfires to hand out. And it's all people out of their own pockets. Like I said, faith in humanity restored as long as we're just dealing with them, because apparently everyone else is a fucking moron. At least anyone in government positions. Yeah, and Russia's offered to help fight the forest fires, and Canada's supporting the offer, which I find interesting. The other interesting thing, so I'm going to get into the woo-woo. Let's go into the conspiracy theories.
Hang on, it does make you wonder though. Australia has sent firefighters to the US multiple times, especially California when it's on fire, but pretty much any time. Anytime there's a huge fire, we're over there.
Yeah, you guys got the one in Indonesia, where the whole island in Indonesia was burning. Australia was sending water bombers.
We've got,
and Russia.
We are known to have quite a good firefighting service, right, and equipment.
Strangely enough.
So why are none of the allied countries offering to help? It's almost as if they've been told, don't. This is meant to go down the way it's going down.
And
that's why Russia's going, oh, no, we will. We will.
So conspiracy theories. Do you want to go conspiracy theory? The base that's up there, which has just gone right out of my head now, the name of the base that's right beside Fort McMurray. The Canadian Fort.
Mexico sent firefighters, apparently.
Mexico sent firefighters. Interesting. Yeah, the U.S. is broke. Well, yeah, exactly. Cold Lake. Thank you, Jerry. Cold Lake base, military base in Canada, has always had a lot of interesting rumors. It's kind of like Canada's, not quite our Area 51, but there's always, persistently for decades been rumors of a lot of weird shit happening in Cold Lake. One of the rumors that has persisted is that Cold Lake is one of the entryways to the underground caverns that lead directly down to Colorado. And I said, oh, isn't this interesting? You have completely wild weather. Wild. 32 degrees Celsius in Fort McMurray. Now, let me explain to you. Fort McMurray is one of the coldest fucking cities in Canada. That's where Nick's from. Last week of April, first week of May, for Fort McMurray to reach 20 degrees would be a major, major, beautiful spring day. 32 degrees? Unheard of. Completely fucking unheard of. Wildfires at this time of year in that area? No, they don't happen. This is like spring. It's raining. It's pouring. It's all the rest of it. Everything should be, Other thing up in Fort McMurray in that area is all the tar sands. What's one of the things about the oil sands? Oh, it is the most expensive place in the world to pull oil up. So you have Alberta is in a major recession at the moment because the price of gas or price of oil has plummeted so much that they can't even hope to be able to make any money off of pulling oil out. And there's a little article last week. This fly does not go away. I swear to God, I'm going to scream. I don't know what's going on with the flies today. What the hell?
Where's the swatter?
The oil sands. Oh, there's all this fear. First of all, they're trying to say that, oh, the oil sands can never catch on fire. That's bullshit. Because they have done in the past. And all of a sudden, the price of oil in Canada is going up. Thank you, darling. The price of oil in Canada is going up because, oh dear, they've had to close down the oil production in the oil sands. So now the price of oil in Canada is going up. What? What? Does this make no logical sense to anyone? How the price would go up because the oil sands are closed down when they're not pumping anyway right now because they can't afford, they can't even break even on the cost of the barrels alone? Do you smell an insurance scam? Because I smell bullshit. $9 billion is what they're saying it's going to take to rebuild this one area of Fort McMurray, which is now turning into a ghost town because the oil sands are dying. Yeah. And they're not letting anyone in. So you look at underground, and we look at the woo-woo and say, oh, okay, directly linked to Colorado. I don't know, guys. You've got a city that's completely abandoned. They weren't even, for 2 days, they didn't even let the military in. They evacuated the city, and basically everyone stood around the outside. Kind of interesting. I don't know.
I thought I'd just scared it off with the threat of the
I just literally hit me right in the eyeball. I don't know. Anyways, and the fires are now going so big, they're going all across the oil sand land. They're now about to hit Saskatchewan and into BC. And they're saying it could take months for them to get this wildfire under control. And yet Canada's not accepting help from Russia.
And we've had at least 3 different ET groups, I think, claim responsibility for it all and I think the good guys, the white hats, military, that what this really is of course taking out all the underground bases. Yeah. So who knows?
They're taking out the underground bases. Okay. If you say so, dude. If you say so. But weather. We need to talk about that. Go into the whole weather thing. That was really interesting that I believe Valiant and who else mentioned the weather is one of those things to watch. But
oh, is that Cliff High that said that?
Cliff High.
If the data's correct, these fires will burn for 2 years and go down into 8 states of the United States.
Well, I don't necessarily believe that unless they're getting help along the way, and that's the plan.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here's the thing, guys. I mean, you look at this shit and you go, you watch the insanity play out. We watch the politics play out. We watch all this stuff, and it's like every single day more insanity. So we'll go executive order. Obama releases an executive order last Friday, May 6th.
This executive order was first put in place in 1963, a month after JFK was assassinated.
A month after JFK was assassinated, because, Danny doesn't instantaneously go, oh, I smell a rat right there.
Apparently, up until that point, they'd been able to transition governments without any issues, but
this executive order is the creation of the Presidential Transition Team Council, bullshit, blah, 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 blah. Now, yeah, on the surface, a lot of people pointed out, oh, well, every president has to go through this whole they create this transitional department for in an election year. And yeah, they do. But there's some interesting shit said in this executive order. Like, for example, what would a presidential transition council in what way, shape, or form would they have to be doing emergency preparedness and evacuation training and exercises, emergency preparedness and disaster preparation exercises? In what world does that have anything to do with a presidential election or a council that's supposed to, it's made up of everybody, including Homeland Security, anti-terrorist groups, the CIA, every agency, including private contractors, which was a very interesting piece also in this executive order, that they can bring in private contractors to help them with private contractors who have experience with presidential transition. Okay, wait a second. Why would a private person have experience with a presidential transition?
There was also reference to non-career personnel.
Non-career personnel,
which means
buzzword.
Career politicians.
Yep.
So that leaves it open to military, banking, everybody,
scientists.
The
coordination.
So what
between
are they
agencies.
prepping for? So
really big focus on coordination between agencies. Again, why would agencies need to be so highly coordinated for what is just, a new president, one going out, one coming in? You could see the internal staff. Yes, I totally get that. You can see the White House staff and the communication between the various teams, et cetera, et cetera. Why does the CIA, the FBI, Homeland Security, the NSA, and God knows who else have to be involved in this presidential transition?
And why now and not previously?
Never been mentioned before. I spent 6 hours the other day reading multiple executive orders to deal with this. Never before has it been mentioned emergency preparedness, disaster training, interagency, blardy, 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 blar.
I mean, do they just do this shit to fuel conspiracy theories and distractions? Because we've got the Obama's going to be the last president. He's not actually leaving deal.
Yeah.
Obama's going to be the last president because America's going to pretty much implode. Or what was the other one? What's the other prophecy prediction? I'm sure I'll get reminded.
Well, just Donald Trump fucking ends up being president, and the entire
fucking Krusty the Clown becomes president.
Krusty the Clown becomes president, and the entire of America blows up. I mean, just blows up. Timing is everything. And I'm sorry, I know it's within 6 months of an election year, blah, 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 but yeah, some of the shit in this executive order. And I'm sorry, I'm going to rant for a moment.
Well, Dawn's convinced they're going to cancel the election. There'll be a reason to cancel the election. Because that was also tied, I don't know if it was tied into that one.
That multiple things have been brought up to talk about that whole canceling of the election.
But the way that apparently Obama's given himself permission to hold US citizens indefinitely in, what were they called? Internment camps?
Internment camps, FEMA camps. Well, the whole thing.
Processing camps. Australia's kind of given itself, is making the same kind of teeny tiny little tiptoe steps towards shit like this too, with a law that they just recently passed that, and I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but
you're guilty through
by association. So if somebody is charged with a crime, they haven't
even been found guilty.
Or anything.
They themselves are under suspicious or crime charged.
You can have all of your communications cut, your phone taken off you, your internet cut. You can be curfewed. You can
lose your job.
You can all of that. And then if the person, and completely monitored, and then if the person who you're associated with does go to court and is actually found not guilty and freed, that doesn't lift this shit off you. And there's bugger all you can do about it, apparently. So they're all making these kinds of steps, and I don't know whether, again, it's just let's just keep fueling the whole conspiracy theory thing and keep them kind of distracted and trying to figure all this shit out while we're over here doing something.
Well, here's the thing. Okay, so we talk about the elections, right? You've got the situation right now. I've never seen a pre-election run-up like this one.
It started early too.
It started way fucking early, like a year and a half fucking early, to the point of when it did start. I was thinking the election was in 2015. Going, did they change it? Is it now 2015? Because they started in like July of 2015 with all this election bullshit. Yeah, the thought police, Cammy. Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. This is played out like a soap opera.
Oh, days of
There's
your lives.
days of our lives. Eat your fucking heart out. Okay, so you've got all the Republican candidates, right? So you've got your Cruz and you've got Trump and et cetera, et cetera. Now the only Republican candidate left is Trump. Trump, the man who's so unvotable. I mean, seriously. Now, on the Democrat side, you got your Bernie Sanders, who's apparently got a halo and wings, according to everyone who has never checked into his background. Seriously, people should start doing some fucking research on these guys. And, of course, you have Hillary Clinton, who's pushing the female vote. Oh, you're a feminist. You must vote for the woman, who's apparently about to be indicted by the FBI, blah, 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 blah. Okay. What happens? Because I've said this before. I said in the Republican vote, you're going to have Jeb Bush is going to come back. Mm-hmm. I've been saying this for 6 months and no one wants to hear it. I'm saying Jeb Bush will come back because he'll make a big deal. I can't possibly let the Republican Party be brought down by Donald Trump. I feel it my honor and I must step into the ring to give people the real, blah, blah, blah.
Sorry, in regards to Hillary, if she isn't the devil, she's his best friend. I think she's his mother.
Exactly.
Taught him everything he knows.
Taught him everything he knows. Oh, I'm going to shut up. I'm just not going there. I'm just going to stop. Okay, so you have all the election is literally turned into a 3-ring circus, the likes of which I have never seen before. I don't know, you guys down in the States, have you ever had an election pre-run-up that's been this entirely asininely ridiculous?
They've got a presidential candidate at the World Wrestling Federation things getting into bust-ups. I mean, it's a show. It's such a show.
It's been insane. Now, if you're going to talk about a setup and a distraction, number one, the distractions by this whole election campaign have been amazing to keep people completely not looking at the rest of the bullshit that's been going on around. Now, is it a situation where they're going to put someone like a Donald Trump who's completely and totally ineligible and then crash the country? Or is it a situation where it's going to be so fucking bad, the choices are going to be so ridiculous that then you have a disaster and it's the perfect opportunity for Obama to cancel the elections? Or we can't possibly, we've just had the New Madrid fault go, or San Andreas. We can't possibly have the elections right now. We're going to set, a state of emergency. You mean like in France, where they put in place a state of emergency that stopped everything for 3 fucking months? And they've perpetuated the state of emergency in France. And people are now completely losing their minds in France, standing up. State of emergency. Because martial law is already in the States. America has been under martial law since I wish Ben was here. He'd give me the date. 1861, 1866 is when martial law was declared in the States, and it's never been rescinded. America's been under martial law since then. So, 1863, thank you, Connie. I knew I was somewhere around there. I swear to God, this fly is really making me mental. Is that what it is? Now, here's the other thing, and this is where I had a little incident with a friend who kind of drinks the Kool-Aid a lot. who tried to play the whole thing when I was talking about the Valiant stuff, because the Valiant message talks about Earth disasters and the fact that things could get real scary for a while. And this friend of mine did the old, oh no, there will be no disasters because we're so full of love and light. The planet would never let that happen. Oh, somebody shoot me in the fucking head.
Just tell the ask the people in Ecuador.
Yeah, because ask the people in Ecuador or China or Chile or Nepal or Vanuatu, who's had a 5.0 earthquake every fucking day for the last 3 weeks. Japan, which is splitting in half right now. Just ask them, right? So, again, is it the fact that they know that something's about to happen in the States? Or is it just a feeding into the fear porn?
I'm going to take a little bit of a sharp left.
Okay, go ahead. I'll sit quietly and stop ranting.
Well, going back to construct, matrix, virtual reality, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
That it is... Like the analogy of a video game that's on a disc, you know, whether it's, say, Lara Croft, just because that's what I'm familiar with. There's only so many scenarios. It might feel kind of infinite at first when you're on level 1. She turns left, she climbs the cliff at this point. I mean, she could have climbed at that point.
You talk to that person, and this person tells you to go there.
Yeah. So, but it's finite. There's only so many different scenarios that can be played out. And I feel like we are at the end of the scenarios, that they've all been played out, either on this timeline or another, in this particular version or construct or another, that they've all actually been played out. And the only way to keep it all going is to literally reset and start the whole thing over. And they need us to do that. And this is...
And you go back to the cycle stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and I have so many questions this last week about the cycles. And one of the things that I said that didn't please Lisa very much actually after last week's show was, I said, I'm sorry, what about if this whole December, January, the time outside of time, they actually did reset the cycle?
Oh, yeah.
And we just did walk into a brand new cycle.
I don't think we have that.
I think we have. More and more this week, I think we have. I think it's totally flawed and fucked up, and it didn't go the way they planned it to. But this whole year, 2016 so far, has been so outside of any reality that I fucking recognize. And I'm sure any of you guys recognize. Did they reset it? Did they reset it and drop us back into another cycle? And it's that... Well, kind of like in the message, what Valiant said, and who else said it? Someone else said the same thing about the April, May resets.
Yeah.
Everything gets set up in March, April, May is when they set everything up for the coming year. And it did not go the way they planned. Is that it? They did the reset. They dropped us into the new cycle. They start going through, and then nothing is going as planned. Because it's very obvious this year that nothing is going as planned.
It feels more schizophrenic and chaotic than ever for me. Can you not spray that shit in my coffee?
Sorry, I'm trying to get the stupid flies to leave me alone. The one that keeps landing in my face. Drive me nuts. Sorry. Could have worshipped him and lighting your lighter and the whole thing.
Yeah, that's true. You're sure it's natural? What do you mean, Connie? Then the latest thing from NASA researchers, scientists, is the alien scenarios, because, you know, it's all humanity's fault. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Elena, yeah, I read some of that stuff too. It was just like, oh, but the certain pieces are just being pushed right now. And certain websites that are doing the pushing have become so visible now. so visible as to their piece of disinfo, distraction, fear porn that they're trying to push. Yeah, very, very interesting.
I guess what she sprayed was all natural, but it still tastes like shit.
If
it gets on your lips or in your coffee.
It's just one of my mixtures that I make, and it's just water and vinegar and citronella and eucalyptus oil. But if it gets in your coffee, it does taste kind of weak. And no, it's not flammable at all. I'm just joking.
There is something, like I said weeks ago, like all the flat Earth info, for me, is proving more and more the artificial kind of reality construct of it all, more than anything else.
Sure, exactly.
And what you missed while you were gone, the way the sun is, in fact, completely schizophrenic or drunk or something, because it comes up at different spots. Like it moved what you would expect to happen over maybe 6 weeks overnight.
We talked about this last week, so we got to go back in and talk about this, because here we are. Look at us. We're doing the show, and look where the sun line is. So, recap last week, the day we did the show. By 5 to 8 in the morning, the sun had come all the way across. I'm talking to the friend of ours who was actually away for a week, so he missed all of it. Came all the way across the couch. 5 to 8 in the morning, it was like blaring hot. Like I was doing my usual scooching over, like cuddling up to Lisa to try and get escape from the sun. And we did the show, and the sun was on our feet on the floor.
Burning.
And we were like, this has never happened before. We've never done a show where the sun has actually reached our feet. The next day,
by feet. I mean, like it would normally be.
The next day, the sun was up the entire couch. By 9 o'clock in the morning, the entire couch, right to the very top, was completely in the sunlight, and the sunlight line at 9 o'clock in the morning was right to almost the door. And
Orion's belt has apparently disappeared.
And Orion's belt disappeared. We could not find it for 2 days. 2 days.
So, this is not just us. This is people all over.
A friend of ours who's just up in Brisbane, who's like 3 hours away, just north of us, said, yeah, same thing. He was sitting, he's got a north-facing deck, never gets sunlight, ever gets the sunlight. He sat there last week in the sunlight going, why is there sun on my deck? This deck doesn't get sun. It's not possible. And then 2 days ago, the sun reverted right back to where it should have been. So it was like 3 or 4 days of the sun being completely up the deck. And then it just reverted right back again to where it was last Sunday.
Just go clear. It's like it dropped. It's like it dropped in the sky. It's like
it dropped in the sky. Because all of a sudden the sun was literally shining right in here, the entire deck, at 8:30 in the morning.
Someone moved the house.
Yeah, someone moved the house. Yeah, that's right. That's what we did. We just spun the house around.
And people who know where Orion's belt is, it's really clear down here.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly where it is.
Every night.
Couldn't be found.
Couldn't be found for 2 nights. I couldn't find Orion's belt for 2 nights, and it should be right there when the sun comes up or moon goes up.
And in the past week, a lot of you guys probably saw it. There was a video put together by who was it? Who talked? They had the compasses.
Yes.
And they said without a doubt.
It was the same week, last week.
Did we talk about it last week?
No, we didn't, but we found
that magnetic north has shifted 40 degrees.
40 degrees. 40 degrees. They pulled out. They had 2 military grade compasses. They had another compass that was one that was used for like people who are backpackers, but proper hikers. And they had like an iPhone with like the GPS compass on it. They all pointed off by 43 degrees. North was shifted by 43 degrees.
So these are guys who know what they're doing and know their stuff. And so that they know that from their house.
That's north.
That's,
due north.
Due north. And everything was telling them it was over there. Everything. And this all happened in like a 48-hour period.
Yeah.
Because they were getting reports from others that saying something's off. So they've all come together to check on this stuff and went, oh shit, it's off by 40 degrees. A 40-degree shift of the magnetic poles would be seen all over the air travel industry, the pilots for sure,
You'd
probably
think
the
so.
maritime industry as well. Well,
here's
we
the
do
thing.
know that most of the airports actually had to repaint and redo their
Lines.
on their airstrips quite a few years ago.
2013, early 2013, they had to.
Because North wasn't North anymore.
Because North wasn't North anymore. Now, here's the thing. If planes, a lot of people, even in cars, you're dealing with a GPS. What does it take? It's digital, a digital GPS. What does it take to just change the readings, to make the readings look normal when they're not? If it's a digital thing that they're following, digital equipment, and it says that you're following this path.
Okay, but again, the whole GPS thing through the flat earth movement has pretty much been proven that it's got nothing to do with satellites.
No, exactly.
And it's all ground based.
Regardless.
And if we are flat and stationary, which a lot of people in the flat earth movement say it's the only way you can land a freaking plane, is if it is flat and stationary.
No, I disagree.
Then it's not necessarily this that's moving. It's all of this that's moving.
Yep.
And if it's ground-based, then it may not have anything to do with all of that, magnetics and all of that. That's actually just, I don't know. It's easy, like you say, if it's all digital, it's easy enough to fudge the figures, to change the programming, to
just make it look different than what it says, than what it is in reality. That is, I can totally and completely see how that would be very easily manipulated. Yeah, but just, okay, Connie exactly says, I understand to get true north now you need to get a special compass. A special compass? Whoever says that you need now a special compass to find true north? Yeah, that makes no sense. No, we've been using the same compasses for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So anyone who says you need a special compass
means something's changed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the Inuit have been talking about the sun moving for years now. But here's the interesting piece. One of the things that was said in that Mercury article, I wish I could pull it up, one of the very last lines, is it's talking about Mercury, and you see Mercury being so much closer to the sun, it only takes 88 days for Mercury to make a complete revolution around the sun. So they have an 88-day year. So basically they're saying 4 years on Mercury for one Earth year, right? And they go through all this kind of stuff, and none of the math makes sense. I mean, none of the math makes sense. And then they make a statement. Now, hold on. I got to try and remember exactly how it went. It was talking about the sun position and tracking the sun's position on Mercury and the ecliptic of its how it goes on an ecliptic. That, oh, it looks so weird too, because apparently if you look at the sun from Mercury, there are days when it goes forward and then it goes back. And it goes forward and then it goes back. Because, you know, that's what fucking happens when planets are spinning around a giant flaming ball of gas. They go forward and they go back and they go forward and they go back. Really? Not fucking likely. That is bullshit. Besides the fact that like they know anything jack shit that's going on in Mercury. They've never landed anything on Mercury. It's all fucking bullshit. But just the very statement that it looks like the sun goes, oh, and then the sun goes back.
Oh, so it just looks like it does.
It just looks like it does. Oh, it's kind of like an illusion. The article's on RT. I will try and remember. Can you put a note down there to make sure I post that link to that article on it? Because it was one of those pieces. Now, which was the picture? Was it Yellow Rose from Texas that posted, someone on that group posted the picture of the Earth and the Moon.
No, it wasn't.
The
Someone
Moon and the Sun.
in that group shared it, but it wasn't them who posted it.
No, and it was basically the video footage of both the Moon and the Earth doing this.
No, the Moon and the Sun.
The Moon and the Sun, sorry, doing this.
Tick tock, tick tock.
And you can clearly, in this video footage, see it going back and forth, synchronized.
Maureen just checked her compass and it's off. Do you know by how much? No, it wasn't shimmering. This was like, these were like cogs.
Literally, you could see, okay, especially you can see it in the Moon, right? Because the Moon, you can see all the various, like the Merundum, et cetera, all the seas, et cetera. And you can see the markings go like this, and go like this, and go like this, and go like this. And in perfect coordination, you can see the Sun go like this, and the various markings that you see on the surface of the Sun, and then like this. And they were perfectly timed. I have never seen anything like it before. And this was right off the SDO. It was not, some conspiracy theorist putting together a video. This was right off of NASA's and SDO cameras.
Yeah, it is a video. And I thought we shared it once
38
before.
degrees. There you go. Maureen just said. She just checked her compass, 38 degrees.
And there's the RT article on Mercury.
Oh, awesome. Okay, Ellen has just put the RT link to the RT one.
Actually I did. In the Collective Imagination Facebook page, I posted that video footage of the Sun and the Moon doing this because we talked about it.
That was a while ago. That was probably a month ago. Probably.
So if you haven't seen it, it's interesting to say the least. And there is a comment in regards to it when it comes to NASA. Whenever they do a launch, they refer to a window of time, or a window.
Always.
So is it when these two are in a particular position and sync together? Is this their window? Because when you look at a lot of the ancient cosmology maps, the ones that do look like we're in a snow globe.
Yeah, snow globe.
They have windows. The firmament has these windows going around it. So is it that
you have to have alignments?
The Sun lines up with one of these windows, or the?
All I know. Things. I mean, we keep saying it like from week to week to week. It just gets more crazy. And the transparency, we keep screaming for transparency. And I don't know if it's just the fact that I don't expect the transparency that's going to come out. And that's why it's just so, what?
I want to hear this. Launch window, yes. That's
a launch window. Thank you. That is exactly the term they use.
Cammy, you said window. I dreamed this. Can you elaborate? Yeah, I agree too. I think, in the Harry Potter movies.
Read what Dawn said, because that is actually an opening of a whole conversation.
Dawn's just said she thinks there's a fake overlay that we're seeing as the sky. And as soon as I saw the first Harry Potter movie, when he walks into the Great Hall for the first time, and you see the ceiling and the way it looks like a night sky and all that,
beautiful stars.
And Hermione says, "Oh, it's just a spell." Right?
Yep.
I went, "That's what we see."
Yep.
Yep. I can't click on the link, Barbara, to double check. But
I wish I could open that.
There's a screenshot, and you can see that it's a sun and a moon. That's the video.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Like, we literally can't even open a web. I'm not going to say it.
Okay, thank you.
Speak not the evil you fear. I'm not even going to say it. But we can't open any web links. Otherwise, I would love to pull up a couple of these things that we've seen.
And it also this illusion aspect of it too. We've talked about this
frames
many times. No. The visions and dreams and experiences and whatever people have had about a reality, like this reality matrix coming, literally, physically, tangibly coming down. Whether it's that doorways open up and we walk out, or whether I've heard somewhere everybody runs to the edge and starts tearing it down. One where it looks like it's actually just starting to dissolve. there's all kinds of different versions of this vision. And the one I personally had when I was completely awake, and I had it like, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times in the last 10 years, where it looks like my vision turns into as if I'm looking at a huge movie screen that's got a big tear in it and a big kind of gaping hole in it. And I can see through that to what's behind it.
Yep.
So whatever I'm looking at, I end up with this huge tear in my vision, and I can see a completely different reality through there. And everything, all the edges are really, really shimmery and sparkly, and it's very disconcerting because I kind of lose all my bearings.
Kind of like several times this week.
Oh, yeah. And it felt as if I could literally put my hand out and go through it, of which I did not even remotely attempt to do.
Maybe you should next time.
Yeah, I've said that to myself, and then it hasn't happened again since I decided I would attempt to put something through it. And I've also had that something similar in dreams, but for that to be happening when you're kind of just walking around the house, going about your daily business, is a little bit disconcerting.
Doing dishes and laundry and usual shit.
You want to hear a crazy theory? How about this one? The galaxy is not empty, but full of amniotic fluid. The Earth is still in utero. Well, I did just say it was crazy. You may not be so crazy.
Maury, I don't think that's all that.
There is an entire
crazy
theory that's come out that space is actually fluid. It's liquid, which when a lot of the stuff about outing the space station and outing a lot of these things shows the astronauts, with the water bubbles, right? And they say they're not anywhere. They're in a big water tank somewhere, filming this shit and pretending they're in space, but they're just in their big training tanks. And what else was? It was there was like 3 different points that pointed to. I mean, apart from all of the ancient cosmology stuff and the biblical stuff,
the biblical, like
the waters, the firmament separating the
water from above from the water below.
Apart from all that, there's been the astronauts being filmed with air bubbles. There's been something about rockets.
I don't remember the rocket thing.
You brought it up.
I was joking about the fact of everyone's building submarines right now. I find it very, very interesting. I'm sorry, but I find it very, very interesting that right now there is a massive amount of submarines being built. Australia is just buying a shitload of submarines to be built by France. You guys are so going to get fucked on that deal, by the way. Just so you know. Everyone who's done military business with France in the last 10 years has gotten fucked on their deals. We all live in a yellow submarine. I was singing that the other day, Maury. We all live in
Joseph said, I just watched that video about sun and moon and flat earth hypothesis. Very interesting. Oh, you mean the one that we just talked about? The TikTok? Or something else? We all live in a yellow submarine, yes.
Yes.
It's entirely possible.
We all live in a yellow submarine. No, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of strange shit. And basically, this week has been just a week of every single day, multiple times a day, at least, and I just looking at each other and going like, this is so insane. The only theory that addresses everything, and I mean everything, is that this is all just a simulated construct. It is all a simulation. It is all a hologram, holograph, whatever you want to bloody well call it. But the fact that it is just a simulation, that is the only thing that addresses all the complete fuck-uppery that we are seeing continuously. Now, it's interesting because the stuff that Katie, which I haven't had a chance to finish reading it. Katie, I was only about 3/4 of the way through the first page. I was talking about reality, and it was talking about timelines, and it was talking about DNA. And it talked about, I don't think I can possibly actually repeat this in a way that's completely rational. Quantum communication from the DNA and the light. And it talked about it basically crossing over through there is no time. Therefore, that communication of our DNA or our greater selves is continuously without barriers to time. And it talked about the physicality, this physicality, and that the brain, the physicality brain, can only capture so many frames of time in time. And the frames per second thing just keeps coming up again. And the holodeck, yeah, exactly. The almost as if the hologram is either falling apart and being seen, or we are advancing beyond what our physicality initially was, which gives us the ability to see through to outside of time, or at least the cracks in time and timelines. Did that make sense? Any of that? For me, the flickering has gotten insane. Yeah. And I talked about this before, and I said, well, hell, I was still in Morocco when I was talking about it. That flickering that I see is gotten so bad, or so, I shouldn't say so bad, but it has become, it's every day, it's continuously now. And I was joking with Lisa this morning saying if I was epileptic, I'd probably have seizures continuously because the flickering is so strong. And it gets more and more and more. And it's like you say, when you look up at the stars, you look up at the sky and it just looks wrong. It just looks fake, for lack of a better term. Like it just doesn't look right. And you look out, and so many times you look out and you see that almost shimmer of where it's like reality just doesn't quite blend in. It doesn't quite fit.
Well, by a lot of different people, the human body has been referred to as a transmitter receiver. Right? And if the reality that we see, feel, touch is nothing more than a program, which I think has run its course. I think we've played out all possibilities. I'm just thinking about what you said earlier, but maybe they did start the game over again already. And
they tried.
They tried.
And it was just a failed boot.
It was a failed boot.
It was a failed boot. And
because this feeling of like deja vu and like we're just spinning our wheels right now. There are certain things that just feel so fucking irrelevant. Like that you should be putting your energy into. But either you can't even get the motivation or the inclination to do it because it just feels irrelevant, or if you do muster it, it doesn't work. Like you can't. There are blocks, there are delays, there are stuff that you could have pulled off a year ago or 2 years ago, or you've done it every year or every month or whatever, and just now it's not working. And even with what Duncan was saying the other when we spoke to him about our normal techniques for shit doesn't work. There's something fundamentally missing. It's like the building blocks themselves are not all there. The foundation is crumbling.
I kind of have a hypothesis that came to me yesterday. It's actually something that's kind of circled around in my head a few times in the last year, probably. Well, at least the last few months anyway. The resetting of the cycle. And I always go back to that. I keep going back to that whole between winter solstice and January 1st. Is that time outside of time. It's like a cycle reset. Time outside of time. And it's ended. I have this, I keep going back to this thing of December 21st, 2012. The cycle was reset. But in each resetting that they've tried to do, it's like that's their window, if you will. When you talk about your window of opportunity where everything lines up, their launch window is that window between December and January, and the time outside of time to relaunch. And they launch. And we have, because we've talked about this, all of us, most of us felt some real radical changes shift right after December 21st, 2012. There were radical things that shifted. Personally, inside us, around us, things in all levels.
My reality changed.
Oh, absolutely.
And then we have for one.
Yeah, you look who you're stuck with now. Okay? And now look at the next shift the next year.
Again.
Okay? You went through the shift. And the massive shift that I was in Malta at the time, all the shift that happened. And there was like, again, right in January, within first week or two of January, huge shift. Boom, here's a new reality. Here we're going to go, and this is what we're going to do this time. And then we have the last year. And there was another big shift then too. You guys all went up and met up in Bali. We look at stuff like there. And then everything, when you came back from there, all the shifting that happened in your life, all the shifting that happened in my life, massive shifts happen. And then we have this year. And the same thing in that December, January window. Massive, massive shifts. And the very first thing we all said the first week of January when we all got together for our very first roundtable show was, what the fuck is going on? Because we all came back. And I remember so clearly the chat room and everyone saying, coming back from that whole Christmas, New Year's, and just being like, what the fuck? Nothing is where we left it. Everything is fucked up. Everything is completely, insanely off kilter. And this entire year has been a continuation of that.
Yeah, it has.
And you know, when you're trying to start an engine in the car, and it just keeps stalling, and it catches for a second, and then that's what it feels like to me. Is like that December 21st. There was they planned that big restart, start the whole cycle again, because it didn't work. At each window, they've tried to recycle it again, except that each one it's gotten more fucked. And if you look, since that time forward, every single year, starting right out from January, you see a massive radical shift. And each one has been more fucked up than the one before. And this year has been completely insane. We've all witnessed it, and politically, economically. And all starts geographically. It all starts in January. Go back and look at the news. Go back and do a review. It always starts in January. And then you have like a January, February, March lead up time. And then in April and May, and that was the one thing in that one written post where it says everything gets planned out and put into place April, May. April, May is when we have...
We've heard that before.
Continuously, if you go back and look at the history of what we watch play out every April, May, there is a major piece plays out. There's a major piece with CERN that plays out. There's a major piece there was the Swiss Alps crash that happened April 22nd last year of 2015, where, you know, all those people died in the Airbus when it crashed into the Swiss Alps. Every year there is something in that time frame. And I'm watching it again, and I just sit there and go, is this them? They're trying to boot the cycle and they can't. And it's like we talk about the desperation they have to get ahead of something. So they keep rebooting the cycle. Is that it? And last year in 2015, they kept trying to get ahead, and they couldn't get ahead because it was very obvious that they couldn't get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And they reboot the cycle again, knowing that it's going to fucking fail, because if I always say the remirroring of the remirroring, the photocopy of the photocopy of the photocopy gets worse.
If they need us, there's less and less of us to draw upon, because more and more people are waking up. Which is why perhaps the in-your-faceness of it all for those who are waking up, because it has to be that much amped up on the dwindling numbers. I mean, once you see the game, I don't think you can be.
You can't unsee it.
Well, yeah, but you can't really be harvested in the same way.
Not the same way.
Dawn just wrote something interesting. Lisa, what if we are caught in a system where we are clones of our true selves and somehow our higher selves have been taken hostage? That is very much in alignment with what Yellow Rose for Texas says.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It was kind of interesting. I was just going to say that.
This construct is in fact just like it's a virtual reality game that the higher selves, whatever you want to call it, the bigger part of us, our spirits, created the avatars to play it. And it was purely our creation, but then the creation kind of got hijacked, and the connection between the avatar and the spirit could never be severed. So the only way to truly control the avatars and control the construct was to control the avatars, control the spirit, the bigger part of us. And which also goes to what Dee was talking about either last week or the week before, about going up when you've had and going into this place where she sees these bigger sides versions of us, and they're all kind of just sitting around enjoying themselves and all la 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 la,
like it's all a game, like
because they don't know what's happening here, because they are being fed a different version of reality, whatever little virtual reality goggles they're wearing, thinking that they're playing this game with us here, is actually being hijacked, and they're seeing something else. So they have no idea what's going on here. Kind of.
Or they've been hijacked to forget.
That's not all Yellow Rose for Texas. That's a hybrid of Yellow Rose for Texas and Dee.
Yeah, and all of us.
And everything.
But but even in the hijacking of that higher consciousness, upper consciousness, greater consciousness, whatever you want to call it, even just convincing them that this is just a storyline. It's just a movie that they're watching. It has no reality. And then the wake up of them waking up and realizing, wait, whoa, this isn't a storyline. This is actually taking place. This is actually happening. And that is me. Oh my fucking God. Mm-hmm. And making the connection. And there was something that was said, and I can't remember who said it, and it was a long time ago, about that kind of the screaming and yelling of us down here to wake them up, that to bitch slap them around to realizing that it is happening. Oh, fuck, that was a couple of years back. I don't remember where that was from or what I just remember someone talking about it and being like, that sounds so right. Just go out and slapping them around saying, would you wake up?
Sorry, just trying to catch up on the chat room, because you guys are just having an amazing conversation as always and putting in brilliant things. My future self was already awake and there. He calls me forward. Yeah, there is definitely this feeling that some part of us, some aspect of us has been hijacked.
Yeah, exactly. Hijacked is a good word.
Kidnapped, held hostage.
Well, no, hijacked in that, like I said, we see it. There's been multiple movies where they've done it, where it's like, oh, come play the game. Here, just put these virtual reality goggles on. And then you think you're playing a video game, not realizing that you've now actually been completely taken over and controlled. That's kind of the feeling on this. That they've just, the lyrics, Stairway to Heaven. Yeah.
There's also, in that article that Katie shared, it's not actually an article. That's not the right thing to call it, because it's a conversation between two people. it talked about, because Jed just used the word levity, it talked about lightheartedness and cleansing, detoxing. And I think based on the stories that we've been, and the conversations we've been having over the last week or so, especially with the collective and Barbara sharing her experience, I think we are detoxing from programming and implants, perhaps even physical and etheric. This stuff is purging out of us. And still, I'm still oil pulling every morning, and I'm still cleansing that way and taking diatomaceous earth, and I'm still doing these things. There is little shifts all the time. And I think that we are still in this purging process, that we are getting rid of all of this programming, that it's kind of crazy hard to remain lighthearted when you see all of this craziness. But I do feel it was one of those parts in that piece that I felt very strongly in agreement with, which was love. Not this false love and light shit, no. But I mean genuine love and empathy. True connection with ourselves, first and foremost, with those around us, with what we can feel and tune into as being organic, for want of a better word, is part of a cleansing process. And, like Lily's been saying forever, we need to heal. And in that healing, we disconnect from the bullshit, from the fakery, from the virtual reality of it all. Humor is essential. Yeah.
You know what? This is, for the last week especially, well, it's been about a week and a half, but for the last week especially, I've been so drawn to just wanting to do tangible things. And I know I put the post out in the Unfuckers room last week, and everyone was like, "Oh, Danny's losing her shit." And I was being really, really silly and just being like, I just have to do something. And I've just been cooking like crazy, cooking nonstop, baking nonstop, doing stuff in the gardening, transplanting plants, and doing anything that's physical, because I couldn't sit still. It wasn't even sit still. It was like that whole, like I said, if you sit still, you're just almost like you're going to float off. The need to just keep physically doing something. And it's the drive right now for me, like to just putz in the garden, like going in and just trimming plants and just digging up this and replanting stuff over here and making little gardens. I just feel this need, and it's in the simplicity. It's almost as if it's a thing of such simplicity that in the moment you can just sit in and just do this one very simple thing, almost necessary. Almost is.
Sorry, I'm changing the subject again because you just brought me full circle.
Change the subject.
No, you just brought me full circle to the Obama executive order and shit like that, right?
Okay.
If this is a finite game and we've played out all the possible scenarios, and if they need us and our energy in order to reboot anything or continue anything, and there's less and less of us to draw upon. Because I'm just thinking about, over the last few years, how all of the hype and anticipation around certain dates or executive orders that have been done, and they never actually amount to anything. Right? There's all of this, someone gives themselves the power to blow up the fucking planet completely, but it doesn't happen. use these powers. They don't follow through on any of this shit. They built the FEMA camps apparently all over the country, and including here. Supposedly there's some, but they haven't used them yet. They're still empty.
Military vehicles being transported all over the place. UN vehicles being transported all over the place in the States.
But nothing's happening with them.
Nothing's happening with them.
So there's always this push that goes nowhere. There's all this fear mongering that goes nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's all this shit that goes nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So what if it is nothing but propaganda or a distraction? One idea is that it's nothing but propaganda and a distraction, so that while they're off over here doing something else, or there's just not enough of us left to supply the energy to pull them off. I mean, I can't. Even the fucking Year of Fear, 2011, Eleanor. We are seeing some
Mayan calendar.
We are seeing some horrible stuff going on with earthquakes and volcanoes and shit like that. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
That's going on. That's not
and
what
the
I meant.
weather is completely fucked.
That's not what I meant. I'm talking about the man-made or the man-created stuff. You know, the military, the New World Order, the banking, the blah blah blah.
Well, even in the natural disasters that we're seeing, there's still a very, very huge slice of alternative media that is trying to perpetuate that this is all being done by HARP. It's all being done by chemtrails. It's all this weather. It's being done to us by them. There's a real push to perpetuate that. And it does not resonate with me. And it never has. We've watched, and I know that they have the ability, obviously, to steer storms when we look at Hurricane Sandy, which was such an perfect example of them creating and steering a storm under the cover of, for them to do whatever it is they wanted to do. They have the ability to do it on this smaller scale. They don't have the ability to do it on the scale that we're seeing right now. And yet there's still a real push in the alternative media to try and perpetuate that same meme of, oh, it's them doing it to the planet in the same way that you're talking about.
JD, so you don't think that there's not enough people to give them the energy they need to follow through?
No, I think JD and you are talking in the reverse of what you're saying versus what he's saying. There's not enough. For me, I think that what I interpreted you to say is there's not enough of them, the sleepers, left to be able to blindly follow along and perpetuate.
No, he thinks there are enough of us. Huh? I'm confused.
That's what I'm saying. Who is us? You two need to define who's us. Yeah. He's taking you to say us as in there's not enough people buying into it anymore.
Yeah, right.
That's what she's saying. Exactly what you're saying, JD. You're just saying it in reverse of each other. You're phrasing it differently. There isn't enough of us buying into the rhetoric for them to perpetuate it because we are beating it over.
There's not enough asleep anymore.
No, that's what Lisa meant. Lisa was meaning there's not enough of us who are asleep anymore to buy into this bullshit. Too many people are now awake, and therefore they can't sell it.
Yeah, we do have to be careful about it.
Sandy, that's really interesting. Sandy just said, sorry guys, I'm eating a handful of peanuts because I haven't had breakfast.
I'm having a custard tart.
Sandy just said, having been working with the public lately, there are a lot more people aware than I had thought. And you know what? That is actually something that's come up this week. It has been a huge amount of people who have now said that this week. We were at a barbecue Saturday. And someone was talking about visiting some friends up on the Gold Coast. And he said, you think that the Gold Coast is all very closed off, Hollywoodish type place. And he was like, no. The people in the Gold Coast, they all know about chemtrails. They all know about HARP. They all know about the vaccines. They all know about this shit. They're very, very awake. And seems to be a lot more. All of a sudden, people are becoming aware of how many people are aware. Does that make sense? And now you have to give me a bite of your chart.
You can finish it if you like. Now, they may not be contemplating things like artificial realities and all that, or virtual realities, but they are certainly seeing that things are not right anymore. And
all it takes is that first step of awake. All it takes. I think the moment people even wake up slightly to the corrupt, even just on the real surface, the corruption and fraud that's going on a conscious level, it disconnects them. The moment they make that conscious connection of the fraud, etc., that's going on politically, economically, whatever is their venue that they are focused on. I think that the moment they start to make that connection, they disconnect. And then they're no longer feeding the matrix.
I mean, a friend of ours went to a coal. Was it about coal?
Coal.
Protest
this weekend,
and he got arrested along with 67 other people.
We're so proud of him.
And from what I can gather from the conversation I had with him around it, it was just fun. It wasn't thousands of angry, pissed off people. It was a bunch of people getting together to
stop the coal,
have fun and wreak a bit of havoc on the coal.
And they had
fun.
They had a fucking blast. 67 of them stopped all the coal trains going through.
Those 67 people that had been arrested, if they'd been there in an angry state, that would be fueling it and feeding it.
Yeah.
But being there having fun, doing what they can to stop trains and, flotillas with boats.
Yeah, they filled the bay. The bay where these boats, the coal boats, ships fill up. They blocked it. Everyone put their boats out there and they freaking blocked the ships. So it basically kept the ships from going and loading with coal for, 24 hours. Well, some of these big ass ships, that's like $100,000 a day to run those ships. But he said, you know what? It was fun. He says there was picnics on the beach. There were live music. The people were dancing. Like, it was not a big, hey, we're going to stop you. It was like, hey, we're going to have some fun and fuck you over in the meantime. And it worked. 67 of them got arrested. They got charged with trespassing. Trespassing on railway land.
Mm-hmm.
That was the harshest thing they could do to them. But yeah. Whole lot of awake people. I really do think that you don't have to be awake to the whole story. You just have to be awake to that one little piece. And that's why I say everyone's got their trigger. Everyone has their trigger, whether it's vaccines or it's the childbirth industry or it's the education system or it's finance or politics or the environment or indigenous rights. Everyone's got their one little trigger. And all you have to do is just get triggered by that one thing. And I think that starts to disconnect
I just know that with myself, my response to the fuckery has changed. So seeing the executive orders or seeing, whatever, seeing all this crap a couple of years ago would have induced fear, uncertainty, and just worry, Now it's like, oh my God, that's so fucked up. I can't, and it's like, no, it's not my reality, or I couldn't get angry about it if I tried. So I'm not feeding it at all. I just look at it and shake my head and go, who the fuck's it? That's a good idea.
Yeah. It's really funny because I do get angry about it. You've seen me rage out. But 90% of the rage out is at the people who fall for it. Like, I'm just like, you want brain dead zombies to be brought back to life by injecting them with stem cells? Are you fucking retarded? And anyone who buys into these contact lenses that are going to allow Google to fucking, if you buy them, you're so fucking stupid. You deserve to have your eyeballs fall out. I'm sorry. And that's my anger. My anger isn't even against the guys inventing these stupid things. My anger is against the public who falls for it, which is terrible. I know I'm a terrible person. But even the way I research, like you said, 3 or 4 years ago, I'd go down like that executive order hole because I'd be like almost that anger, but almost a panic, like, oh my God, what are they doing? What are they doing? Oh, I gotta figure it out. Now it's more like, it's like the biggest, best crossword puzzle. Mm-hmm. And I just need to figure it out to be able to go, got it! 30 seconds time, I win. Awesome. Move on to the next one.
Yeah. Which is why I think it has to get crazier and crazier, because the ones who can still be used to energize it need to get ramped up even more because there's less of them. Something like that. The batteries are dwindling. And but the flip side of it, of course, is that every time they do, one of them pops awake.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. It's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Yeah, you'd almost feel sorry for them, but not really.
The storm before the calm.
Yeah.
Honestly, there are days where I feel like this is the day.
It's all going to go.
This is the day that it's all going to go, because everything is so nuts. And energetically, you're so...
On a physical level, even.
Yeah. There's like, this can't hold any longer.
It can't hold any longer. I'm just going to go lie on the ground. And then it stabilizes, and you're like, what the fuck was that all about? Because seriously, that was not cool.
Pop Goes the Weasel might have been a heads up.
Yeah, maybe. It was really funny. I have to talk about this too. The last 2 Fridays in a row, Lisa and I have had to get up early in the morning and go to Lismore, which is like the nearest
big town.
Where
this one's a little.
You can blink and you're going to miss Nimbin. You could drive right through it just because you sneezed. So Lismore is where it's a little big town where we can go and get the stuff we need. So they said go get the car worked on or anything like that. Jed, we're working on it. That's all I can say. We're working on it. There's a whole backstory to that gets real fucking crazy. Anyway, so the last 2 times we've had to go into Lismore, and we had the morning we had to take Jed in to drop Jed off at the train at like some god awful hour in the morning, like 7:30 in the morning or something. So we're doing this track, and it's about
6:30 actually.
It's 6:30 exactly. So it's about a half-hour drive from where we are to this town, and it's a beautiful drive. Like you're through rolling hills, and there's like forests that you're going through, etc. And we've watched this both times this really strange low clouds / ground fog that doesn't look anything remotely like it should, to the point it actually looked like smoke, except it was obviously really, really low clouds. It was bizarre. Both times we get to Lismore and we do take care of the first thing that we ever do, whatever it is that we have to go, drop off the car, drop off Jed, etc. Yes, girls?
Why do we have an audience?
Why do we have an audience all of a sudden?
We just came back. Where was it going?
Okay, good. All of you. Go. Sorry, all of a sudden all the kids appeared and they're standing in front of us like hyenas waiting to pounce. It's kind of scary, actually. Children of the corn ask. The little children of the corn. And, we go to do what we have to do and be like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Okay, let's go get a coffee. Gotta get a coffee. Both times we went to 2 different cafes. And we talked to a little bit about this last week. It happened again this week.
Oh,
go to a completely different cafe.
Last week, this last Friday was interesting.
And sit in the cafe, having your coffee, and just looking around going, what's
There's
going on?
There's 2 old guys sitting over there. And I just sort of turn around. And they're staring at us like they don't know what they're looking at. They had the weirdest looks on their faces, like
The weirdest looks on their faces.
like they were trying to figure out what they was. Yeah, it was confused.
I was like, what? Who are they? What are they? Like, it was
almost
really
like
fucking strange.
seeing somebody you kind of recognize, and you're sitting there trying to think about where you've met them before, or something like. It was like that kind of
quizzical, kind of like.
And I didn't think much of it at the time. But we sat there in the coffee shop going, okay, we've got that kind of we aren't really here feeling again.
Again, we've stepped into a movie set. That's what it feels like. It's like you've stepped into a movie set and you're just an extra sitting on the side, or even more so, just on the edge of the set, watching it play out in front of you. The people were so fake, and the scenarios were just so something out of the show Friends, or like it was just really strange. And it was both times, 2 different coffee shops.
So the next one was we were sitting in that wasn't a coffee shop, that was the food court.
We're in the food court.
Mall, right? Yeah. The worst place for us to be.
Don't go to the mall. Whatever you do, don't go to the mall.
So we're sitting opposite one another. We've just gotten something to eat. We're sitting down opposite one another, and I'm looking at people over Dee's shoulder. She's looking at people over my shoulder. And I'm seeing there was 3 all up in the space of maybe 3 or 4 minutes. We all did the same thing.
Exactly.
One guy actually just stopped still and had that kind of quizzical look, like he wasn't sure what he was looking at. And there was another woman who just kept sort of stealing glances with this same look. And then there was another guy.
And I was seeing the same thing over her shoulder on the other side.
While we're sitting there going, we're not really here. This is all just happening around us. And we don't feel like, it was bizarre.
It was like we said, sitting in, the IMAX movie theaters where it goes 360 degrees, the screen is 360 degrees around you. It was like that. Like we were sitting in this little teeny fake table in the middle, and the screen was playing out around us, and it was so surreal. The people, the looks that we were getting from people, and we're just sitting there eating a sandwich. It's not like we were, dancing on a table, or there was nothing unusual. We weren't dressed like any unusual from it. It was so surreal because everyone around us, there were just all these people, and they were just looking quizzically. Go. The girls were in the room. Go. Oh, excuse me a moment. I'll be right back.
Sounds like LSD to me. Yeah, no, not. These experiences when you go out, I mean, I know you guys are having them too, going into a mall or going into a place that's, and I'm absolutely convinced that government buildings now, I'm totally convinced of this, that government buildings are being fed a frequency, whether it's, even just go in and change your rego or your driver's license or something like that. There is something that clicks when you walk into these buildings. And in malls, in shopping centres, it's whether they're pumping something through the air conditioning, whatever, but you can feel it physically. Her vision just goes.
Completely.
It's like there's a force field around the place, and she walks through it, and her vision just goes. And
she ends up,
holding
walking me along
walking
and
through the place.
Like I'm the little old doddering old lady. Here, help me, dearie. I'm so crippled. Here, you gotta help me.
Yeah, the energy is horrendous in these places, but
government buildings.
That's what I was just telling you. And I can't think
what
straight.
Is it? Yeah,
you get in there and you're there to change, to renew your license or change the registration of a car, or you're there to do something. You went there for, and you get in the door and go, what the fuck was I here for? What am I doing?
Why did I think this was a good idea?
What have I got to do? I've got to pull a number. Okay. You got to get my number to get in line. It messes with your head. So I'm absolutely convinced of it now. Centrelink has changed right into the zombie. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I told
And the
Lisa, I'm never
supermarkets
ever
just your
going into
basic
Centrelink again with you ever. Oh, I'm never walking into one of your Centrelink buildings again. I'll just sit out here on the curb.
Yep. Anything like that. They're definitely feeding a frequency into those places. And it messes with you physically, energetically, psychologically.
Well, you said it when we walked into the mall. You said it was like you could feel like almost like being inside a dive bell where the pressure all the way around you, you could feel.
Oh, I
like,
started to walk to. I looked like a crab. I couldn't help it.
I walked sideways.
And I started walking sideways. It was like there was all this pressure pushing me sideways. And I looked at Dad, go, where am I going? Why am I walking like this? I couldn't help it. It was freaking funny.
Actually, it was because we sat there the whole time we were in that mall. We fucking giggled our asses off, and then we're like, "Can we not go back here again? I really don't want to go back here again."
So, what is the bottom line here? I mean, we never
Do we
really
ever have a
one.
bottom line?
We have a hypothetical current. This is the moment's bottom line.
Oh, we're 5 minutes to the end of the show, which means we
Oh,
should
are
have,
we?
we have 3 minutes till we should come up with a brand new thought that we should have to expound upon.
I'm more and
The
more and
bottom
more
line
and
is
more
it's all
and
a
more
fucking
and more and
matrix.
more and more and more and more convinced
And it's all falling.
that it's virtual, that it's not real. That any moment now, my higher self, my bigger self, my spirit, whatever, is just going to yank me out of here. Oh, please open. That whatever they're trying to do is not working. That the reset is not working. That there's not enough of us to feed it anymore.
Enough of them to feed it anymore. Let's say it that way. There's not enough of them to feed it anymore.
That we've played out pretty much all of the scenarios that we can. I've just, whatever, I must have been feeding all of this crap to some degree because I just felt a shift when I did that whole, that brings us back to the beginning. Because I've just felt a complete shift within myself. So there was, even unconsciously or subconsciously, some feeding of it, some feeding of the system, of the matrix, whether I knew it or not.
Maybe that's
because
that's our system. Maybe that's what our show is.
What?
Well, we've always had to identify it, call it all out, work through the 2-hour show to come around to the back to the beginning and go, okay, we're done with that.
Yeah. Because even though I thought I wasn't feeding any of that stuff, I now feel lighter again, more of a shift, even less connected to it. So I must have been. So maybe we all need to have a little feel, not think, but feel into ways in which we might still be feeding it. Because unconsciously, we probably are. And I still think that looking at it, naming it, calling it out, and working through the process is probably the best way to eventually get to the point where you're not feeding it. Because it almost becomes, because I think if you're not aware, then you can be subconsciously feeding it.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. But I think if you are aware, you can still be subconsciously feeding it.
Mm-hmm. So it's to be aware and then consciously not feeding it.
But I want to just put a little side note here. Again, there is a difference between not feeding it and doing that love and light thing. You cannot even look at the negative. You must not even see the negative. You must not acknowledge the negative at all. You must do everything should be positive, because there is a balance point there. You can't not acknowledge the negativity that's going on around. You cannot. It's not about not acknowledging it. It's about not feeding it. And that is a real fine line to find. And I think everyone's got their own balance point on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like one size fits all of what you can do to not feed it. I am really, really short-tempered, as Lisa will tell you. I'm very, very bitchy and grumpy this last couple of weeks.
So what are you feeding when you like that?
I'm not sure if it's a feeding or if just a continuous pissed off at the like almost at the moment to moment as the shit happens, and you're just like,
yeah, but that
"I'm so
energy's
fucking
going
done
somewhere.
with it."
If we are transmitter receivers, that
Yep.
energy is going somewhere. Now, if you're not directing it, then perhaps it just becomes available to be utilized by someone or something else.
I don't know. Is that why I just keep working in the garden and keep baking and cleaning? Is to direct that energy into a very simple physical outlet of is that why? Because I just continuously all I want to do is just keep doing something physically with my hands, just something. And is that it? Is that the directing of that energy into something?
For me, I would rather look at something, and even if it does incite an initial response of fear or anger or anything we would perceive as negative, then at least I can get a short, sharp burst of that out, see it, and then bring myself back to and not feed it anymore. Rather than, I don't like the idea, and maybe this is just an inner control freak, I don't know, but I don't like the idea that my energy can be utilized in some way without my knowledge.
Yep. And knowledge and conscious consent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there are bound to be ways in which, because otherwise I assume I wouldn't be here. So there has to be ways in which I am still yet to awaken, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what I don't know.
Yep. Oh God, that has been my major thing this week. I don't know what I don't know. Don't know what I don't know.
Now there are probably, possibly, potentially channels, cords, implants, whatever way you want, whatever you want to call these things, that tags, attachments, all that sort of stuff, that can still feed. So if I don't know what I don't know, and each knowing leads to more knowing, then that's the way I'm going to go for me. I want to look at it. Yep. I want to see what my response is. Because even just in this last 2 hours, I have noticed a shift, which is surprising. So that means that there's still stuff there. And who knows what that'll lead to. Yeah. Yeah, I want to see the truth head on too.
Exactly. Not feed it. Yeah. I'm going to go dig another hole in the garden today. I'd rather feed the garden than feed the whatever. It's really, really funny because I rescued a couple of plants today or last week. Ben's old yard. He had a couple of, he's not there anymore, so they're kind of dismantling a lot of stuff from the garden, and so I've been going in and harvesting whatever was available in the garden, and rescued a couple of plants, and one of them is a lavender plant, and lavender is one of my most favorite plants, and I saw this poor little sickly dying off lavender plant stuck in the corner of the garden that obviously wasn't doing well, and I dug it up, and I trimmed it all back. And I planted it and put it right in front of our room. And I talk to it every day. And I feed it that love because it's like, I love lavender. And it's like, you're going to do just fine here. Look, I've got you a beautiful pot. And we've got you some of this incredible soil that Ben and Jesse have made. And you're going to do, and you know, that plant did not wilt even for a second. In the transplant process, it did not wilt even for a second. Kale, what do you have? Yes, you may share those with everyone. Little dude with like his hands behind his back, walking backwards, so mommy can't see what he's taking out of the kitchen because it's not at all obvious. yeah, I've got the little plants, and I've been transplanting plants, and just like pay that energy to that. It's the same thing about the baking and the cooking and canning and all this kind of, and just kind of paying that energy to it. And I don't know, is that just my outlet at the moment? Needing to have a physical outlet, literally a physical outlet to put that energy into.
Jed just made an interesting comment too about our unconscious mind is becoming more and more into the conscious. And that's, yeah, I think that's what a lot of this stuff does, is it acts as a trigger and brings more forward. And perhaps that's what we really mean by being awake, is that the unconscious becomes conscious, and that there is nothing hidden within ourselves anymore. There is no unconscious anymore.
What day was it? Thursday or Saturday? Before. Thursday or Saturday. It was before. There was one day that I spent a lot of time in the garden and a lot of time just doing all these things. And my very conscious thought was, first of all, I'd woken up and the entire planet was fucking sideways. I mean, seriously, I'm one of those where you wake up and you're like, I don't know what planet this is. I don't know what reality this is, but it's not my fucking reality. And I had this very, very clear conscious thought of, you know what? I'm going to create my reality. And if I need to focus on what I wish to create, I want to create prosperity and bountifulness and beauty. And I'm going to sit here in the garden and I'm going to create that. And that is my aspect of today. I am going to put my focus into this because that is what I want to create. And it was a very conscious decision to sit there in the garden and then to say, I am going to create this. This is what I want to create, so I'm going to create it. And even if it meant just planting a bunch of plants inside a bird cage, which I also did. Whether it was making tea biscuits, whether it didn't matter. It was like, this is what I want to create. I am going to create this, and that's what I'm going to do. And that was kind of, and it also kept me from being bitchy at everyone. If I was hiding in the garden, then I couldn't be bitchy at everyone.
All right, guys.
At least you guys don't have to live with me. See the look? Do you see the look?
Oh, smiles. I'll smile.
Because you're so much easier to live with, too.
I am. I'm a piece of fucking cake compared to you. I'm joking. I love it a bit.
Yeah, it's a good
it's not taking me at all. No, she does all the cooking, so I'm happy.
I do all the cooking, and I'm quite happy to do all the cooking, so.
I just have to clean up.
That's not true. I didn't see anyone clean up the stew pots last night.
No. By the time I put all the basil away, I was done.
Yeah.
See you guys next week for more of whatever this is.
Lisa and Danny's Insanity Show.
Oh,
Darius' turn to clean up. I don't remember who cleaned up. I don't think anyone cleaned up last night.
Yeah,
we ended up playing the wisdom game.
Yeah, I cleaned up before that and all.
Oh, okay.
Campfire immediately following this. There is a Zoom link and lots of squares. I don't know what that is.
Hi, Glennice. I haven't seen you in here before for the shows. Awesome.
Yeah, Katie wants to create a living situation where someone loves to cook for her.
I love to cook for anyone, so feel free. I can't guarantee what you're going to get for dinner because sometimes it's on-the-fly type thing. I think we're having pasta tonight, by the way. And I'm going to go make some homemade pesto. So
no, you did cook for a once in a dream. There you go.
Did I? That's funny.
So yeah, see you tomorrow for Collective with Barbara, and we'll be back next week to whatever it is. I don't know what.
Same bat time.
Same bat channel for more
the wild and wacky as the stomach
more
turns.
questions.
No answers.
We should have an hourglass.
I'll go find one.
It's like Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. These are the days of our lives. Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.